ready for a taste of the Friendly Islands. And welcome back to Cliffieland. This is Week in Country number 175 on our second attempt of cooking the food of every single country in the world. Tonight, we're up to the nation of Tonga. Tonga, an island nation located in the South Pacific, about a third of the way between New Zealand and Hawaii, is located in Polynesia, and it is a beautiful nation with a fascinating history and a delicious cuisine. It has a deep and rich culinary tradition which you could never pretend to try to replicate here. It also has a fascinating history. Also known as the Friendly Islands, Tonga is, interestingly, the Pacific's only remaining monarchy. Insofar as its cuisine, as you'd imagine, involves a lot of fish, a lot of coconut. You'll find a lot of starch vegetables such as squash and sweet potato, and very specifically taro. Its cuisine is closest to the cuisine of Samoa, which you can find in the video that we did here earlier. In fact, that kind of worked into how things went last time, so let's take a look and see how things went when we tried things before. Well, 5 years ago on the Global Cooking Challenge, I was able to cook and stream across 3 nights, and I was presented with the problem of the fact that I've already done so many of the nations of Oceania, and a lot of the dishes bear a certain resemblance, or I can't get certain things for them. So what I wind up doing is, on the first night, I made an okaita, which is very similar to that I did for Samoa. It's a slightly different Tongan version, I suppose. That one came out rather nicely, but I didn't want to kind of repeat myself so quickly this time. So we're not doing that this time. That night, I served that also with a coconut confetti salad, which was probably good in its recipe, but it didn't really work out too well in my presentation, and that's my fault. On the third night, I wound up cooking a different collection of dishes. I served a chicken lupulu, and I served that over a taro and coconut sauce, which was nice, although I didn't season it as well as I should have, and that probably suffered a little bit. And I served that with a rare dessert for me. I made a sweet potato with the coconut caramel sauce, which came out okay, but that's not really my forte, and I'm not looking to try that one again this time. What we are doing is what I did on the second night here, and bear with me here for a minute. As I mentioned, the cuisines of Oceania are somewhat similar, and it's very similar to the food of Samoa. And you can see things like mumu that we did back when we cooked Papua New Guinea, or like I said, what we did for Samoa. The reason I mention that is because the particular dish that we did last time, the one that we're doing this time, is a kumquat chicken with basil and shoyu. Now, I know that that is not a traditionally Tongan dish. According to the recipe that I found, again, links are always in the about section if you want to find the original thing that I found for this thing. According to that, this dish was created by a Hawaiian woman who married into the Tongan royal family, and allegedly this dish became a favorite of the Tongan royal family. It's a chicken dish from a Hawaiian person made with a sauce which is of Japanese origin, so I know, again, not traditionally Tongan, but it has a Tongan connection according to where I found. And it was so good last time, I really would kick myself if I do it again this time. And we served that with the basic boiled green bananas, which is pretty common to islands across the Pacific as well as the Atlantic. And that came out rather nicely. So now we need to see what go into tonight's 2 dishes. For our kumquat chicken with basil and shoyu, we'll need 8 chicken thighs with skin, 1 cup of soy sauce, half a cup of rice wine vinegar or mirin, as in this case, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and half a cup of cold water, a quarter cup of light brown sugar, 4 scallions, 3 of them chopped and 1 sliced for garnish, 4 cloves of garlic, minced or pressed, 1 or 2 red Thai chilies, seeded and minced. I wasn't able to find red Thai chilies here, so we're using 2 whole Fresnos instead. 8 to 10 kumquats, halved and seeded, 1 tablespoon of ginger grated, half a teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice mix. If you don't have it, there will be a recipe for that attached in the About section. Half a cup of chopped basil, plus a few whole leaves for garnish. And then for our boiled green bananas, we'll need about 2 or 3 green bananas, salt to taste, a few strips of bacon, and 2 tablespoons of butter. This looks like it's going to be really good. Again, let me remind you, this should not be considered any kind of substitute for knowing how to cook traditional Tongan dishes. If you're interested in the actual cuisine of any of the nations that we're doing, I highly recommend you go find people from the actual countries who are cooking the actual food and see how they do it. This is just my little experiment, but now we need to see what happens when we get cooking.
Preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Salt and pepper the chicken pieces liberally, then place them in a Dutch oven or casserole dish. Then in a bowl, place the soy sauce, vinegar, cornstarch, water, and sugar, and stir until the sugar dissolves. Then add the scallions, garlic, chilies, kumquats, ginger, the Chinese 5-spice, and basil. Stir to combine. Pour over the chicken and bake covered for 45 minutes. Then uncover, bake for an additional 20 to 30 minutes, glazing the chicken with the sauce every 10 minutes. Garnish with whole basil leaves and sliced scallions. Serve over rice. Set a pot of salted water to boil, cut the ends off the green bananas, cook over a medium-high heat for about 30 minutes, drain, peel and slice the bananas, dress with crisp bacon, pour melted butter or bacon fat over the bananas, salt to taste, and serve hot.
How'd that all turn out? Well, in a word, it was fantastic. The dishes were both really good. We're going to start off with those boiled bananas. Now, if you've never had green bananas before and you have access to them, I highly recommend you go find some because they're a wonderful starch which you can use and substitute for potatoes. You cook them more or less the same way and you can kind of combine them pretty much the same way you would potatoes. And it's really, really delicious. This was basically with butter and bacon, just like a baked potato, and it was nice. It was, just need to salt it some, and it was an accessible, basic dish. I'm gonna give that one 3 out of 5 globes. Nothing really to write home about. I'm sure it could be better. But now we need to talk about that chicken because it was just as good, if not better, than I remember it last time. It was stupendous. The dish was so flavorful. It had the bits of salty and sweet and sour, which I remember. The chicken was just cooked perfectly. I'm so glad I made enough that I had enough for a whole other night. I definitely have to make this for company. Once we can actually have people in our environment here again, I am definitely making that for a dinner party when I can have those again. So I'm gonna give that one 5 out of 5 globes. No big surprise there. So that does it for this stint here in Oceania. We only have 2 more of those countries to go. Next time we stay in the islands, but not these. We go around to the other side of the world to have the food of Trinidad and Tobago. See you then. These are not my original recipes. Links to the original recipes and their authors can be found in the About section. If you have any thoughtful feelings or helpful suggestions about what I'm doing, feel free to sound off in the comments here. If you like what you see, like, subscribe, hit that bell to be notified when these videos are posted. And of course, you can always follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Happy eating.